Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me, as always, is Mark Souza. We have baseball talk, obviously. We have Verlander and his thoughts of free agency. Kind of sums up what we think of free agency also. We have a new extension for an ace pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies also we're going to talk about just a very brief time. And, of course, Harper and Machado are going to be our main topics of discussion because they still haven't found a home. And the question is, how long will we wait until we find them? But first, Justin Verlander, pitcher for the Houston Astros, has said the free agency system in baseball is broken. And I know from experience of talking on this show with Mark, and he doesn't even need to say it, but me and him could not agree more on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've had a show that says fix free agency.
You got to fix it.
Something
I already told you how. You just got to do the decision. LeBron-esque.
But with two players.
Back to back. Same time. Catalina wine mixer.
Have them sit next to each other.
Have them sit back to back and have three hats in each.
How about screw it? Make it look like The Bachelor and bring roses to like certain owners.
Maybe they should do it like The Bachelor, and every week they eliminate one or two teams.
Yeah. Okay. We just found the perfect show.
There you go.
They should have done it 4 months ago.
Then you go hometowns. You do the hometown dates where you go check out the city that wants to bring you in.
But the thing is with that is like this. If they happened 4 months ago, if it started in November, we would have a winner by now,
mm-hmm.
and we wouldn't have to deal with this garbage.
Right. It's broken.
I know it's silly to think about, but there's got to be something we can do.
Yeah.
Mr. Harper, if you're listening to us, Manny Machado, if you're listening to us, please.
So do you agree with Verlander?
I 100% agree. I could not agree more.
You could not agree more.
If I could agree with him 101%, I would.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely right. Because we've talked about it day in and day out as we do the baseball podcast, the free agency is absolutely broken. It's been 4 months, and not one major signing has happened.
Not one.
4 months.
We've had one trade, but that's it, huh? The Real Muto trade.
That wasn't even that big of a deal.
Well, the Dodgers signed outfielder.
I mean, Puig getting
Pollock,
traded,
right?
I guess.
They signed A.J. Pollock.
Didn't Puig get traded to the Reds,
yeah,
too? I guess
after
that was probably the biggest one, just the biggest name to be to another team. But other than that, there's been nothing of note that has actually interested me or interested anybody. Because you see this on like Bleacher Report and all these other news sites of these signings, and you just go, about it.
I like that we decided that a Bachelor-type show with roses would be the way to fix MLB free agency the day before Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you did.
Illuminati. No, I honestly had no idea.
I mean, subconsciously it was in your head. You were thinking about flowers and roses.
Well, yeah, it's Single Awareness Day for people like me.
And when you think about The Bachelor, you think about the roses.
Yeah. If any girls want to find a date for Valentine's Day, at me at Jeff Malinoff on Instagram. No, I'm kidding.
Please at Jeff.
Totally kidding. Anyways,
he's not kidding.
I don't want to random date on Valentine's Day. I'm very.
What if it's a really attractive person?
Then I will consider it, but I like to know the person before That's why I really
blind date.
That's why I like someone made
Tinder.
The thing is, my friend made me a Tinder, and I haven't even touched it in months.
Bumble.
My brother made me one of those.
I've never used that. I'm married.
Well, yeah, but I had people made some for me, and I just don't touch them very often.
Gotcha.
Anyways, moving on.
What can be done about this broken free agency that Justin Verlander...
Free agency should have a Tinder. Swipe right on teams you want to match with. Swipe left on teams you don't want to match with.
So, there's been other veterans. Buster Posey had comments. Evan Longoria, Jake Arrieta have talked about. The Verlander was just the one I think had the loudest voice, and maybe he's the last one. So I don't think we'll see the end of veterans and other athletes, especially baseball players, speaking about the lack of activity in free agency. Now, there's other good players that are out there, like, yes, everybody's talking about the Machados, the Harpers. What about guys like other former All-Stars? Adam Jones, Craig Kimbrell, Dallas Keuchel, Alcides Escobar, Carlos Gonzalez, Carlos Gomez, Mike Moustakas.
Carlos Gomez still hasn't found his home? That's actually... Well,
none of them.
Do you think it's his attitude?
These are all former All-Stars.
Well,
still waiting.
With Carlos Gomez, do you think it's his attitude that's not helping?
I mean, I don't know, but Manny Machado is known to have an attitude as well.
True, but Gomez, I think, has gotten as many fights as Machado.
So, Justin Verlander, I did not remember this. 2011, American League MVP. I do remember that he was the American League MVP.
You mean?
Sorry, for a second I didn't remember, but then
he was
like,
a beast. Yeah,
I just forgot that I knew that.
You mean Cy Young or MVP?
He was the MVP. He was the 2011. I knew that he was a Cy Young winner, but I forgot that he was the MVP winner.
How good are you when you not only take the Cy Young, but you also take the MVP in the entire league when it's mainly the MVP is for like hitters?
Yes. So he believes that he doesn't think enough teams are trying to win, and
which I 100% agree with.
And that's why we're seeing a lack of free agency. We're seeing like very few teams that are going after players, and that's kind of why it's bottling up the market a little bit. Get this. Here's some interesting stats that kind of that go with what he's saying in terms of teams. Maybe
I'm ready.
Maybe the lack of competitiveness in the world of Major League Baseball in today's games. So last season there were 3 teams that lost over 100 games. Before last season, the most in one season that lost over 100 games was 2 teams. Last year, 8 baseball teams lost 95 or more games. 8.
95 games.
The first time since 2002, more than 2 teams lost 100 or more games. And the first time in MLB history that 8 teams lost at least 95 games since they expanded to 162 games.
That is absurd,
That's
sir.
a lot.
That is absurd. That's too many teams tanking.
That is a lot. I didn't realize that. I knew that last year there was a few bad teams that felt like there
This is getting to an absurd level of... There's a reason why baseball is actually going down in popularity. Because so many teams aren't trying to win.
Right.
It's no more apparent than it is right now, as we speak. What you just said proves our point.
So if that's the case, is that why all these guys are unsigned? Or is that just a fact, but doesn't necessarily mean that's the reason why a lot of these guys remain unsigned?
Well, I'll counter with this. Do you think it's also laziness on one side or the other?
No, I mean...
Or holding out in some way, trying to get more money and thinking you can get more money if you wait long enough?
I definitely think that there's something to the argument that Machado and Harper, like separating them from the rest of the free agents, I think that there is something to it where the argument could be made that they're not getting the offers they thought. I don't think there's a team that's going to be offering $300 to $400 million like
well, that's
me and
what
you
they're
both
asking
thought
for.
Too. Exactly. So I don't think even the Phillies, for example, I don't think the Phillies are willing to go that far. I don't think a lot of these
because
teams.
that's a huge investment. I mean, look at the Marlins after that signing of Stanton. They had to get rid of him because how deep they were and like dead at the moment. Because of the fact they had to give up so much money for him. In theory, it was smart because how good he is. He's a great player, but again, it's one of those contracts in where now everyone's going to be asking for it. And honestly, if you want to give it to a guy that can help your team make money, then Harper is that guy. Machado maybe, but I know for a fact that Harper can be the guy that can give you money in revenue and ticket sales and jersey sales and all that good stuff and help you get that money back that you acquired for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do think that the expectations were higher than the reality of the situation. They probably also were, the agents, I think, are heavily involved in baseball, maybe a little bit more than other sports, where in terms of decision-making on where their clients will go. But, yeah, I mean, if you're Bryce Harper, let's just take him, for example. If you're Bryce Harper and your agent was telling you, like, for example, didn't the Nationals offer him like $300 million? Wasn't that the report that they initially offered him and he turned it down last year?
Roughly, yeah.
So if you're Harper and you say no to $300 million because your agent's like, you can get more, and then it's now you're seeing offers under that, you haven't seen one meet that or eclipse it, then maybe you're waiting, right? Like you're like, no, I'm going to wait until somebody budges.
But is someone going to budge? Are these guys going to be left out in the cold come, like, summertime? Mm-hmm. I know that makes no sense, cold summertime, but you get my point. Left out in the heat. There you go. Mm-hmm. But regardless, like, there's got to be a thing where I think it's on both sides. The front offices of multiple teams are waiting for them to budge, say, okay, I'll take it type of thing. And then teams are waiting for the managers and front offices to cave in. So it all comes down to who's going to cave first. And that might never happen.
Yeah, it might not. I really don't know at this point where either one of these guys is going. The top two guys are going to sign, but there is a lot of good players out there. So I'm interested in knowing if the guys like Adam Jones, Dallas Keuchel, Craig Kimbrell, he just won a World Series. I'm wondering if these guys are getting offers that are just lowballed, or if they're not getting offers until the big guys sign. What do you think about that?
It could be a patient time. It could be a patient time till the bigger guys sign. And I think that's also for Machado and Harper. They're waiting for one another to sign for them to maybe reach above that. But I don't know what the case is. It's a very confusing time because we really have zero clue what is going down in these guys, like when they are having meetings with their agents and other teams in that nature, what they're asking for. We can always think of rumors in these reporting stories, but we don't really know what's happening in these meetings. We don't really know what's happening outside of these meetings when Harper's talking to his agent. We really don't know what they are what they truly want. And that's frustrating to the point of where it's been 4 months, and we still have zero clue where these guys are going. Usually you have an idea or a narrowing it down type of scenario, but there's not even a narrowing down scenario happening right now. It's still a waiting game. Mm-hmm. And that's frustrating as a fan, and as our job is to find out all the news and cover it and talk about it, and we can't do that because there is no news.
There's still a lot of good players unsigned, so it is kind of crazy.
That makes it worse.
I mean, what I'll say is that I feel like baseball. We know that baseball has been falling on the wayside. Where sports like basketball and football have seen their popularities increase, baseball's decreased, and whatever is going on in free agency, whether Verlander is right or wrong, whether you agree with him or not, the fact is free agency is boring. It just is. Compared to the other sports, when it's basketball, everybody's on their hands in, what is it, pins and needles? Is that what it's called? Everybody's on pins and needles when waiting to see who's going to sign the top guy.
Yeah.
Where's LeBron going to go?
If 4 months happened in NBA or NFL free agency, so many guys would be signed. It would be the little guys being signed at this moment, not the big guys. The big guys would probably be in the first week, roughly.
Yeah. So I don't know if baseball can do anything or what should be done, but the fact is that fans are losing interest. It's turning into, I hope my team signs to one of these guys, or I don't even care anymore to sign one of these guys. And apathy always leads to lower attendance numbers. It leads to less interest in the sport. So, yeah, something should be done, but I don't know what that should be.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just like I said, I can't stress enough how frustrating this is, just waiting for all this stuff to go down, because we really don't know what the circumstances are. We don't know how many contracts are in front of them at the moment, and we just have to wait. And waiting is we're powerless to really figure out anything. And with that, it hurts the league. It hurts baseball, and that's why baseball is where it's at right now, below NBA and NFL, is because of this. Because the off season is so slow paced that it's affecting the regular season.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyways, we should take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about a couple players returning back from injury, a couple smaller scale signings. So there is technically some free agent activity going on. We'll talk about that. Another former Yankees legend joining Derek Jeter. We'll talk about that and more when we return.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Since it's the off season, we're off in the season of winter. Get it? I'm so funny.
Mm-hmm.
See how I'm talking and like dull it sounds? That's the MLB off season. That's if it became a person.
All right, we can't just be Debbie Downers the whole time.
I know, but it's fun. Down with me, Debbie.
It's fun to be a Debbie Downer.
Would it suck to have the name Debbie because everyone's going to assume you're just a
you better
Debbie
be happy
Downer?
all the time.
Do you think there's someone named Debbie in the
You better
world?
be happy all the time if your name is Debbie.
Okay, are you going to name if you have a child with your wife, are you going to name your first daughter Debbie?
No.
Good. Just make sure we're on the same page.
I can't say that with certainty, though.
Your wife's like, we're naming her Debbie. I'm like, son of a...
I also don't know how our opinions will change by when that happens.
I guess that could be a year from now. That could be 2 months from now. Who knows?
Who knows?
If your wife has a baby in 2 months, I'll be very alarmed. I'm like...
She won't have one in 2 months, I can assure you this.
Yes, because she's not pregnant.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. We're just going to ignore
Even
that
if
one.
she was, she'd have to be visibly pregnant to have a
Yeah,
baby in 2 months.
exactly. Anyways, moving on from that.
Let's talk about Corey Seager.
Did he have a kid?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
I was kidding, but okay. I was kidding. Like,
what I
did
do
he
know
have
is
a
that
kid?
he had off-season surgery. He had a couple things. He had the UCL ligament, which is not a fun one, but he's a shortstop, so it should be okay.
United Championship League.
No. He did not have a United Championship League surgery. He had a ulnar collateral ligament surgery, and he also had arthroscopic surgery on his left hip, which is...
That's not good, actually. That could lead to, like, hip replacement. Like, hip surgery is probably the worst thing you could have as a...
He's a 2016 Rookie of the Year. That's real early in someone's life.
Now he's a 2019 hip surgery replacement. Sounds like could be.
Not hip replacement.
Well, but like any type of hip surgery is major affecting, especially in baseball, where you can have to if it's on the right side and he's a left-handed hitter, he's got to plant with that right leg, and that affects the hip, or so on and so forth. So it could definitely affect his play if his hip is injured for a long period of time.
Huh?
No, I just know a lot of people who have hip injuries.
Mm-hmm. Usually not as young as Corey Seager, right?
Yeah, mostly.
It is concerning. I mean, I actually think the elbow ligament is not that big of a deal compared to the hip, just because.
The hip is way more severe, in my opinion, yeah.
Look, he's a shortstop, and he's a good player. So even if, he had a injury that meant he couldn't throw the ball that well from shortstop, they could always move him to second, to first. He's a big guy. He's one of the taller shortstops in the major leagues. He definitely looks like a corner fielder for his size. So anyways, we know the Dodgers traded Puig and Kemp. They're going to see Machado leave. Yasmani Grandal expected to leave too. They did sign A.J. Pollock. But how critical is it for them to get Seager back in a healthy capacity?
Well,
one of the best shortstops in baseball, right?
You need him healthy at all times. You need, especially, everyone on your roster you need healthy. If they're a starter, healthy, regardless of him. And when he's up there in the shortstop rankings as one of the best, then yes, you need him healthy ASAP and doing whatever it takes. Because
Closer Kenley Jansen.
Wait a minute. Aren't we in the pitcher and catcher meetings, or what's the word I'm looking for? Pitcher and catcher check-ins.
Reports.
Thank you, Jesus. Isn't that today or tomorrow?
I believe that is that today.
I think it's today.
It might be. I know it's this week. You know what? With Valentine's Day coming up, my brain's been a little. Some pitchers and catchers have already reported.
Woohoo! Something exciting.
Some report today, but mostly everybody's. Yep. San Francisco Giants report today. The Dodgers reported yesterday. The A's reported a couple days ago. So yes, now the first workouts. Yep, some teams have already had their first workouts.
Yay!
Position players will be reporting this weekend, starting Friday.
Yeah,
various teams will.
But do you notice something? You were right. You said would Harper and Machado sign before spring training, and it looks like they won't be.
Last year, J.D. Martinez didn't, and he was a big name. I know not as big as those two, but still a big name. He was the biggest name last year, right, in free agency?
I would agree with that, but this is another level, obviously.
Yeah.
This may be one of the biggest free agents in the last 20 years.
Speaking of pitchers and catchers, and we're talking about the Dodgers, we know that Kershaw lost some velocity last year. Reported that he's feeling stronger than he did last year. How crucial is it that he raises his fastball back to that 93, 94 range? It was down to 90, 91 last season.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, he was a little bit more hittable last year, that's for sure. Also, Dodgers closer Kenley Jansen, he had surgery to correct an irregular heartbeat in November.
That's scary.
Mm-hmm. Dodgers are kind of in an interesting year, right? Some changes are made. I think 3 or 4 different guys will be different in their starting lineup. They have some question marks in their pitching staff. Obviously, with Kershaw and Jansen, maybe their 2 most important pitchers.
Yeah, that's actually something. Because of the fact, especially someone with an irregular heartbeat, it's kind of scary because you never know really what the outcome's going to be. So, honestly, just hope for the best for him. Nothing more than that. And, that's just more than baseball right there.
Pitcher Sergio Romo has signed to the Miami Marlins on a 1-year contract.
Marlins like their old veterans, don't they?
$1.25 million deal on a 1-year deal. You know, Sergio Romo saved 25 games for the Tampa Bay Rays last season. He also became, I don't know if you remember this, but he was one of the faces of that experiment last year where teams were experimenting with the openers, and he opened a few games for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. So he's
I remember
one
Madison,
of the first ones to do it.
I remember Madison Bumgarner not saying there's no way in hell that's going to happen with him.
Now, if we remember, he had 5 starts last year. They were all the first 5 starts he ever had in his career. And 2 of those came in consecutive days on May 19th and 20th against the Los Angeles Angels. We don't know if the Marlins are planning on using Romo in that capacity this year, or if they will go back to using him in a more traditional role. Closer, possibly setup man. I think when he was with the Giants, he was in his best role as a setup man. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
I know that he was a closer at times. Back when the Giants had that 1-2-3 combo of Lopez, Romo, and Brian Wilson. That was a devastating 3-man bullpen trio that helped the Giants win a couple World Series there.
Mm-hmm. Well, Brian Wilson was actually only part of one World Series team. He was injured for the second stint.
That's right.
And he wasn't there for the third stint. So
that is correct.
So that was mainly the first one.
So Wilson helped the second title, but he didn't participate when it happened. I mean, he was on the team.
I think he was out for the entire season.
Was he? I thought he had played during the season, but then he got
I
injured.
think he got Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, but he got hurt during the season, right?
I think it must have been. I think it was extremely early.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2012. It was a long time ago, but I think it was extremely early.
And that's when Romo took over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's his claim to fame is striking out Cabrera for the final out of the World Series in 2012 when the Giants swept the Tigers. Now he's with the Marlins.
Romo can pitch for a while with that slider, right? It's when people lay off of it, then he can get hit.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part is people have been laying off it a little too much lately. That's my only kind of issue.
He's been getting older.
He's getting much older. So, and speaking of the Marlins, not only is Derek Jeter part of that organization now, he has a buddy, a former New York Yankee teammate in Jorge Posada.
Really? So he's joining Jeter, huh?
Yes, he's part of that organization now.
Joining the front office?
Yes. Kind of sounds like he's just bringing buddies in. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I don't think Posada has any...
Miami Yankees.
Does Posada have any experience in a front office role? I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
That is a serious concern for me if I'm a Marlins fan.
So, in typical New York fashion, when he retired...
He goes to Miami.
Get this. He retired in 2011 and immediately retired and moved to Miami. So he's actually been in the area.
Posada did?
Yeah, since 2011.
Oh, what a coincidence.
That is such a cliche thing to do, retire and move to Miami.
Oh, of course you want to move
to
somewhere
Florida.
with sun and heat and...
Oh, yeah. You don't
and-
want to see snow.
Yeah. And you want to see, like, a beach. I don't think... if there's a beach in New York, it's a really bad one.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways... Yes, Posada is going to... I think he's like some sort of executive. I'm not sure
Know
what
a
he's...
fun fact?
Yes.
Jorge Posada made the last out when the Yankees lost to the then Florida Marlins to lose the 2003
Yes, he was
World
tagged out
Series.
by Beckett.
Yes. So maybe he will help the Marlins win another championship.
I forgot he was the final out in that 2003 World Series where the Marlins...
Yeah, he hit that soft little grounder.
Josh Beckett had an amazing World Series that year in 2003. And
You want to hear something crazy?
How insane is that? Had the Cleveland
I got a
Indians...
better stat.
Wait 1 second, though. It's crazy how Cleveland Indians haven't won a World Series since the 40s. And back then, the Cubs didn't win one for almost 100 years. But when it comes to the Marlins, they started in like 96. They've won 2 World Series already. 97 and 2003. How insane is that?
Want to know something insane? The
Tell
Marlins have not played a postseason game since.
2003?
Since that World Series win.
You're kidding.
Again, since the last play of Posada getting tagged out.
I had no idea it was that long.
It does make sense when you think about it, though, right? Like, when's the last time you saw the Marlins?
I know, but I thought they were just in it, like, just spun, like, sporadically, not none. It's been 16 years?
I don't remember them in the postseason.
I'm
fact checking this, but
I know,
them.
but I just assumed they were, like, in the DS or the wild card or something and just lost. You know, I didn't know that it was never again.
So Posada will be a special advisor to Derek Jeter as these men try to bring some of that New York Yankee championship spirit to this downtrodden franchise. When will the Marlins be good again? We know they kind of blew it up.
Okay. First of all, it wasn't the team. It was Jeter that blew it up.
Well,
that was all Jeter.
Let's be honest. They probably did the right thing in blowing it all up and starting over, right?
Yeah, but how he did it was like you should have built around some of the younger guys they gave away, not trade them, in theory. Like Stanton I get, but others you could have kept to build around. He had a lot of good talent there.
Right. I mean, it was controversial for sure. There's been a lot of criticism towards him. Absolutely.
Yeah, but the question is, like, how long is this going to take? Is this like a 76ers the process thing, or is this a Cleveland Browns and this now thing?
If only baseball was like basketball, then you could see. The problem with baseball rebuilding is that you don't see it. You don't see the behind the scenes. You don't see the kids developing in the minor leagues. You only hear about them, right? Like if you're a fan of whatever team, you're probably not watching the AA team. You're probably not watching the AAA team unless you live in the city, but you're reading about it. You're hearing from the beat writers like, oh, so-and-so, like, oh, first-round pitcher got a complete game shutout in AAA last night, and then you're like, oh, he could be the future. But it's easier to see it in the NFL or in the NBA, right? Because your first-round picks are playing. Your first-round picks are actually performing on the television at the games that you're at. So baseball is harder to trust the process, right? Because you don't see any visual evidence that the process is even going in the right direction.
I know. I just came up with that term because of the fact that what else are you going to call what they are doing?
I agree with you. But do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Because like when the Sixers trusted the process, they could see that Joel Embiid was a phenomenal basketball player on a terrible basketball team. They could see that Ben Simmons is a rising star. Mm-hmm. What do the Marlins see? Like, what do the First off, you're going to make a joke about...
We don't see anything.
We can make a joke about Marlins fans because there aren't any, right? But
they're probably all retired as well.
Miami is a transplant city. Transplant cities are hard to get people in attendance to sporting events unless the team is really good.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Why are there Why are there 10 teams of all the sports in Florida? Like, seriously.
I guess population. I don't know.
Like,
it's one of the biggest states.
If they went to I don't know, if they had multiple teams in Texas, I get that. Multiple teams in California,
makes sense.
I get it.
California's huge. New York.
New York makes way more sense, but Florida is it's not that big compared to the others.
Well, Florida is a big population-wise.
But
it's like,
are any of them
isn't
from
Florida
that
the
area?
fourth biggest state?
But sports-wise, sports commodities, sports fans, I don't think that's a majority right there. Mm-hmm. You could say the same for California, to be honest, except for L.A. And even in L.A., there's some teams that are having trouble selling out in football. But baseball, I guess, is successful there. But I mean, have the Tampa Bay Rays or the Florida Marlins or Miami Marlins ever really had a stacked house every game?
No.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyways, maybe we should.
I hate to be so negative. We'll talk about something good about the Marlins, or let's talk good about the Rays.
Hopefully.
Hey, Rays, you made the World Series in 2008. You remember? Huh? Remember that World Series run? You beat the Red Sox in the ALCS? Huh? You lost. But yay, World Series appearance.
The Marlins, they trolled everybody with those couple World Series wins, huh?
Do you like their new jerseys, like the black they got back to their old, or do you you know what I'm talking about?
I like the old pinstripe ones.
I do like the old pinstripe.
With the black sleeves, right, and the Marlins on the front.
Yeah, well, the thing I like about that is pinstripe is just baseball, Baseball, it just works with baseball uniforms.
Yeah, I'm not really digging their whole new uniforms. I do like what the Miami Heat have done with the whole Miami Vice thing.
Love that.
Like with the neon blue. It looks like the, what do you call it? Like the
Miami Vice.
The bar lights, like the bar light, like the neon signs.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pink and the blue, like that.
Yeah, I have been loving that stuff. I think that's one of the best jerseys in sports, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But granted, I do like the black M they have written on their jerseys. I think it's a fond idea, like making it a
black is
out.
usually a solid choice for for a color.
Just when they had the white and orange and yellow, they had too many colors in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But they kind of narrowed it down, which is smart.
Yeah.
They kind of used the Miami Vice lettering a little bit in their Miami jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, their alternate pinstripe ones they have, their throwbacks are cool.
Yeah. We should go to a break.
When we come back, we'll talk about more jerseys because there's really nothing else to talk about.
No, we'll talk about another player coming back from a major injury.
We'll also talk about an ace getting an extension from the Phillies.
We'll also talk about a ridiculous story about a former major league pitcher.
Ooh, I don't even know about this. We'll be right back right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Baseball Podcast. Finishing up our talks for the day. Just a real quick report. The Phillies have extended their ace, Aaron Nola, to a 4-year, $45 million extension. He had a pretty great season last year. He's only 25 years old. He's coming off a 2.37 ERA, 224 strikeout campaign last year, and he placed third in the Cy Young voting. So definitely a good extension for the Phillies. A great pitcher, no doubt. And still, like I said, only 25 years old. Has a lot of potential later on. Potential winning Cy Youngs, actually, in my opinion. But moving on, what was on the agenda? What you were saying about the weird pitcher incident?
Yes. So do you remember Daisuke Matsuzaka, the former pitcher for the Red Sox?
Yes, I do.
Daisuke, as he was affectionately called.
Was he the one that was the closer?
No.
No, that was someone else?
No, he was a starting pitcher. He was a big signing from Japan.
What year? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, it's been a while. He's 38 years old now.
Oh, wow.
He pitched for a while. He had Tommy John surgery. He returned to Japan in 2015. He's had some elbow problems, or arm problems, I guess I should say. Throughout his career, he famously once threw 148 pitches in a high school baseball game.
I thought for a second you were going to say he threw 143 miles an hour.
Hold on. I wasn't done.
Oh, okay, you're still going.
He threw 148 pitches in a complete game shutout in high school, and then the very next day threw 250 pitches in 17 innings.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So
that's a lot.
Maybe that's why he had to get surgery down the road. But Daisuke suffered a shoulder injury while mingling with fans at a spring training event in Okinawa.
So he's hanging out with fans.
Yeah, signing autographs, and a overzealous fan pulled his throwing arm while he was walking away. And because of that, he is diagnosed with inflammation in his throwing arm. And he's going to be on the shelf for some time. They'll wait till the swelling goes down. But he may have suffered another injury. How insane is that?
That is actually absurd. How badly did that guy pull his arm?
I don't know. Daisuke was 6-4 with a 3.74 ERA over 55 innings last season. Was named Professional Baseball's 2018 Comeback Player of the Year in Japan. So we'll see if he can come back from this incident and further his career. I remember him when he came over with the Red Sox. That was a big deal. But speaking about players coming from overseas, Shohei Ohtani. The Angels expect him back in May. At least that's what his manager says. What do you think about him getting back to the lineup?
I think he can only benefit. I think this team can only benefit from that. I don't see anything bad about it. I think it's just like, he's helping out. He can contribute. So I don't think any really negative to it, unless he's still rusty in some way or some sort, or re-aggravates something.
Yeah, as of right now, two-way phenom Shohei Ohtani, he'll miss the start of the season, but they're not going to set, the Angels that is, they're not going to set a timetable on his return, but they do expect him back around May. He's obviously not pitching because he's recovering from Tommy John. I don't know if you remember that last year, but he had the surgery for Tommy John. He's not going to pitch this year, but he will be an everyday player eventually when he's healthy enough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that we're going to see him pitch again?
I'm not going to say 100% no, but it seems like it's going to be unlikely, but I'll give him a chance to.
Last year as the everyday DH, when he was healthy, he hit 285 with 22 homers, 10 stolen bases. Pretty good. He also pitched well. He had a 2.86 strikeout to walk ratio. Not bad. So obviously they can use him in their lineup, but he appears that he will be their everyday DH.
Good for him.
What an interesting team the Angels are.
I think everyone's interesting.
What?
I think all teams are pretty interesting.
They have Trout, Pujols, and Ohtani. Like, they're an interesting team, you know?
They
don't usually win, but they're an interesting team.
They have all the talent in the world, too. That's the weirdest thing for me, is like they can win championships with the roster they have.
That Pujols contract is kind of killing him, huh?
Oh, right. Albert Pujols is a guy.
Yeah, what do we make about him, though? Like, it seemed like it was a good deal at the time, but
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird to see. It's weird. Like, it's hard to say. Like, we really don't know the actual. He's
39 years old. He's obviously declined. I mean, I think that's fair to say.
Well, at 38, yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime, no matter what team you're on, what player you're at 38, you're gonna have a decline. Except if you're Tom
You know
Brady.
what his numbers were last year?
What were his numbers, sir?
He batted 245.
245 times?
No, he batted.
I'm kidding. Of course I know. 245 batting average. Not the best.
His career average is 302.
Hey, he could have been Davis from the Orioles. He had a historically worst season ever.
Yeah, but in terms of him,
it's very sloppy. It's very bad. But bright sides.
Mm-hmm.
Positives. He wasn't the worst.
He batted 245 last year, 241 the year before.
So he actually improved.
It's been pretty bad. Since he joined the Angels in 2012, 2012 was his best season. He batted 285. Just not providing much in terms of batting average. Last year, he only hit 19 home runs, down from 23. He had 64 RBIs, which was a career low. Not looking good for Albert Pujols to help this team win, right?
True.
He still keeps his strikeouts really low. He only struck out 65 times. That's
actually not bad. That's
really good.
That's actually really good. Yeah, under 100 times is impressive. And like I said, Davis from Baltimore, he struck out over almost 300 times.
Although last year was the least amount of walks that Pujols ever had at 28, considerably down.
Well, because he's not a threat on the plate anymore, as he used to be. So he's not getting walked as often. He's not Barry Bonds-esque of like.
He did steal a base last year, surprisingly.
Wasn't that a wild pitch?
Well, if it's a wild pitch, you don't get credited with it.
I think he was in the middle of a steal that he was going to steal regardless, and it was still a wild.
He's actually stolen a base in every year of his career. In fact, he actually had 16 twice in his career, which is incredible to think about.
He's not a fast guy.
It's pretty good for a guy his size.
Are you saying he's fat?
Well, he's not skinny.
Yeah, you're saying he's fat.
I'm just saying that for a guy his size to steal 16 bases, pretty good.
Yeah. I
was complimenting him.
Mm-hmm. Likely story.
Yeah. What else you got on the slate?
Gosh, there's got to be something we could talk about.
Cubs closer Brandon Morrow is going to miss the beginning of the season.
Okay. Why?
He had minor elbow surgery in November, but he is not going to rush his recovery. He says he feels good, but he's going to take his time, which makes sense because you don't want to mess with an elbow injury, right?
True.
I don't care how minor they say it is. When you go under the knife, I'll be careful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's their job to be careful. People doing the surgery, so it's not like they're gonna go.
But I mean, if I'm a pitcher and it's my arm, I'm gonna be like a little bit a little bit. I'm going to lean to the side of being cautious, right?
Oh, like getting it scoped out and make sure it's all good to go in theory. Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, I didn't really know what you meant at that, but I get it now. I think, man, like pitchers' arms must feel like jello by like the end of the season when it's the off season, right? Those arms gotta feel some pain. And with that, you gotta look at like, do you think like the new pitching rule of you gotta use the 3 batters rule? Do you think that will come into effect a lot more than like 1 batter in the past? Do you think they'll say like they'll use that more as a test to how his arm is, like before he goes back full time?
Yeah, maybe. This is kind of a crappy story to talk about, but I think we should do it anyways. Royals pitcher Yordan Ventura, he tragically passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah,
in the car accident. So he is still supposed to be owed. Well, his estate is supposed to be owed $20 million in guaranteed money. Was still supposed to be paid out to the family. The Kansas City Royals have not paid it, and now it's going to court. Man. Because they're citing a clause in his contract that would void payment if he was injured or killed while driving intoxicated.
Oh my goodness, I did not know that.
And the estate, his family, is saying that their estate is broke. Like, they don't have any money. All the money that he made is completely gone. So that is going to, sounds like, legal proceedings.
$20 million, that's not very much for a franchise. I mean, come on.
I mean, it's still a lot of money, but
I know, but they lost someone they love. I think this is the wrong time to really try to get out of paying someone.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that he has a young daughter
and it just seems extremely insensitive.
However, the newspaper reported that Ventura's daughter has received more than $12 million in a life insurance policy that's being held in a trust in Florida until she's old enough. So there is money like down the road. Like there's $12 million waiting for her.
I just you hear about this stuff like waiting money for family and then other family members trying to get after it. I just hope that's not the case in this situation. Yeah,
I would assume that legally that won't be allowed, but I don't know. I am not a legal expert, believe it or not. But I know you thought so, but I'm not.
You know what I mean? But like they will just try to peer pressure her and something because that's happened before. Unfortunately, in those circumstances, she's
still very young at this point, so maybe down the road that will happen.
Isn't she like an infant?
She was 3 when he passed away, so she's 5 years old.
Yeah, I'm assuming she'll get at like 15 or 18, roughly around there.
Yep. So, but I think that's it today. That's our show. Join us next week as we talk about spring training.
And hopefully someone will sign somewhere.
We'll see you later.
If only people like us in baseball, in the baseball world. And as always, I'm Jeff Malinoff, and that's Mark Souza. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.